The legalization of sports betting in Canada has created a booming new industry, sports betting ads.
With every tap, a new legend is born.
You may have seen them. The endless celebrity endorsements are hard to miss. Some critics are saying ads like these have gone too far. Statistics Canada has estimated that 1.6% of adult gamblers are at moderate to high risk of gambling disorders, and that represents more than 300,000 Canadians. My next guest recently released a report on the impacts of gambling ads. Bruce Kidd is a professor emeritus in sport and public policy at the University of Toronto and recently launched the campaign Ban Ads for Gambling. Bruce, welcome to Power and Politics.
Thank you, Heather.
What was the impetus behind this campaign and this white paper?
Well, I've been grossed out, as a number of my friends have been, and thousands of people all across Canada, by the avalanche of ads encouraging all viewers of sports on television to bet on sports. It's been a tsunami of ads, and we've been grossed out by them. And as we came together to talk about a campaign to pressure Parliament to ban or restrict those ads, we discovered all the research that's out there about the harm that gambling causes, and that the way that ads for gambling groom or induce people to gamble more than they would otherwise, and particularly young people.
Okay, so pause there if you would, Bruce, because I'd like to know what the study, what the science is into all of this. As you look at, quite right, you can't miss these ads. What do we know about the impact, what is the impact of exposure to all of the gambling advertising we're seeing?
It encourages people to gamble more than they ordinarily would. It particularly encourages children and youth to gamble, even though it's illegal for them to gamble in Canada and many other countries. It effectively grooms them to a gambling culture, and they begin to associate sports betting with sports. And while most of the research is done in other countries, which have a longer history of this, it's clear that for some of the population, a small percentage, but a significant number when you think of the overall number of people who gamble, acquire gambling addictions, which lead to other harms: financial loss, unemployment, marriage breakup, family breakup, and mental health. And that has been shown to be highly problematic to those people, their families, and their communities.
So you're satisfied it's a causal relationship. You see the advertising, it encourages more gambling activity, and then in a small group, it leads to those gambling harms you just outlined. As a result of that, what are you calling for in your white paper?
We're calling upon Parliament to ban ads for gambling, and particularly sports betting, in the same way that it previously banned ads for tobacco and cannabis, to minimize the harms that are created.
So it's a ban not on gambling, but on the advertising for gambling. And in the white paper, you suggest that Canada should follow the model Australia has laid out. What is that country doing?
Well, Australia has a much longer history with this, and they are not moving, but they're considering a phased approach to banning ads. They recognize that there has been a culture of ads and an economic investment in ads, so they want to phase it out. But by the end of 4 years, they're proposing a complete ban on ads for gambling. Australia is a country which has done a lot of the research. It's the country which has demonstrated so clearly the causal effect between ads for gambling and the harms created, particularly among children and youth. And that's why they're moving to gradually phase out those ads.
Over that 3-year time frame. What kind of support do you think your campaign will get from Canadians?
Well, the polls show that an overwhelming majority of Canadians are disturbed by the ads, if not opposed. We're lobbying parliamentarians. There's a senator's private members bill before the Senate right now. And we've got lots of support from MPs in the House of Commons from every party. As one MP said to me, "You're pushing on an open door. You don't have to persuade us." We're also getting hundreds of calls from constituents who are upset about these ads. So the question is, how do we affect a ban or a restriction?
So it's interesting calling on Canadians to contact MPs, and obviously they already are, and in some cases MPs are supportive and people in Ottawa. But I'm just curious because provinces and territories control and manage gambling on sports now. Parliament gave them the authority to do so in 2021 when it legalized sports betting. Wouldn't it be the impetus on provinces and territories? Why are you calling on Ottawa to become involved now?
Well, our reading of the very complicated law is that the federal government has the power to ban ads in the way that we're describing. The provinces and territories regulate the betting companies, and some of them, like Ontario, are considering restrictions on the ads that betting companies send out. But we think it's much easier and quicker and comprehensive if the federal government does that. And our understanding is that the federal government has that power.
You mentioned, I think the phrase was economic investment. To what degree do you think money might stand in the way of what you're pushing for?
Well, I think the argument will be made by the advertising companies and some of the sports companies that they have, in this very short time since legalization, have come to be dependent upon this revenue. So that's why we're suggesting that Canada follow the Australian approach and phase it out, not just to do it in one fell swoop.
Not just, I mean, provinces, notably Ontario, but broadcasters too running those ads. I mean, they make a lot of money from that. And proponents of online gambling say they use these new tax revenues to invest in government programs. Does that wash with you at all, Bruce?
Well, we don't, I mean, obviously there's some revenue, but the tax rate in Ontario, which has published the revenue from the first year of operation, is significantly less than the tax rate in other jurisdictions. In Ontario, it's about 20%. Across Lake Ontario in New York State, it's about 50%. So we think much more can be done. We also think that the governments and the betting companies need to accept responsibility for paying the economic, social, and treatment costs of the harms created by addiction to gambling. And at the moment, they don't contribute anything to that.